Exploding pagers. Heard of that? Well, I guess you did, otherwise you wouldn't click this video. So what I'm going to do here is to give a brief analysis of what we know so far and maybe some more advanced stuff about it. So a quick recap of what happened, or at least what we know so far about what happened. Hezbollah, which is a terrorist organization stationed in Lebanon, at least it's designated as a terrorist organization by many of the Western countries. Basically, they use pagers to communicate. Why pagers? Because you don't want to use smartphones or really anything that can be tracked. So you go low tech so that you can avoid detection or espionage by the high tech. But yesterday at around 3 p.m. Lebanon time, all the pagers kind of went on at the same time and then exploded. We're talking about probably something like 5,000 pagers exploding, and well, each pager belongs to some Hezbollah member or activist or someone who's involved with Hezbollah. For example, the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon also got injured by an exploding pager, which kind of makes sense because Iran obviously funds and directs Hezbollah's behavior. Hezbollah is an Iranian proxy, so that's that sort of thing. Now, pagers are usually kept around one's crotch, and as you can imagine, having a pager explode near your crotch is, well, you can figure it out for yourself. The explosions don't seem to be very lethal from what we've been able to see and gather on videos that have emerged from the incident. Not that many people died, I think as of now about 10 people died, and we're talking about thousands of explosives going off, but we do have thousands of injured. So I guess the explosive was rather small, and it was probably designed more to sow confusion and, well, fear probably among the organization. And it's also quite precisely targeted, because if you only target the Hezbollah pagers, well, anyway, I'll leave that speculation to you. Now, what on earth could cause thousands of pagers, all belonging to the same organization, to explode at the same time? Now, there are some theories, we don't really know yet, but the two leading theories right now are, first of all, something to do with the battery, maybe that the pagers were somehow hacked, or I don't know exactly, and something caused them to all overheat at the same time and then explode. That's option number one. Option number two, which to me personally seems more plausible, although I know nothing about batteries and about explosions, is that the explosives were actually planted in the pagers beforehand. Now, for this to happen, there would have to be so many security breaches on Hezbollah's side. For example, the one who planted the explosives would have to know where the pagers are being manufactured. He would have to know that the pagers are being manufactured. He would have to, somewhere along the supply chain or along the production chain, get a hold of all thousands of pagers and fill them all up with a few grams of explosives. So that seems more likely, but now when I talk about it, I don't know, it's crazy. Both options are pretty crazy. Now, this is probably, if I think about history, I don't think that there has ever been, in the history of mankind, I don't think that there has ever been such a mass targeted attack against an enemy fighting force. I don't think that there has ever been anyone, any country, that attacked single combatants or militants, you might say, members of a certain organization or of a certain fighting force at the same time, all over the enemy country with such precision. Now, is it 100% precision? It's probably not, but it's still quite precise to have such small explosions go off with only people of a certain group who should own this type of pager. Now, let's discuss the likely perpetrator of this attack. I guess it's not a huge leap to say that Israel is probably in charge of this. But before we get to that, let's talk about the other potential candidates. Okay, so first of all, it could be the U.S. Hezbollah is designated as a terrorist organization by the United States as well, and Well, I don't know if it's so. The CIA certainly, I guess, has the capabilities for such an action, but I don't know if it is responsible. It's kind of crazy to think that they are. The second possible candidate could be Iran. Like maybe Iran really wants to instigate a war between Hezbollah and Israel. But again, I find it to be unlikely. First of all, because Iran injured basically its own people, Hezbollah or an Iranian proxy. And secondly, because if Iran really wanted a war between Israel and Hezbollah, it could have started a long time ago. Hezbollah is not exactly an organization that really needs a proper casus belli, right? A formal reason for war. It's regarded as a terrorist organization, even by many of the Arab countries. So there really isn't a problem here for Iran to just instruct Hezbollah to launch a massive barrage of rockets at Israeli civilians. Well, they have been doing this, but they can extend the reach of their fire, and then Israel would probably escalate into war. The third likely perpetrator is Israel, and I don't think there's really anyone who doesn't think Israel is behind this. And this could be leading to two things. First, it could be the starting action of a war. For instance, in 1967, the first action Israel took when it went to war with its neighbors was to destroy the Egyptian Air Force. This could be seen as sort of an equivalent. Destroy the Hezbollah basically command, the people who are holding the pagers, knock them out of duty, put them in the hospital for care, and invade Lebanon to eviscerate Hezbollah. So that's one option, but so far we haven't seen an Israeli invasion or a massive Israeli offensive. At least while I'm recording this, who knows, maybe even today things will change. So that's option number one. Option number two is simply to sow fear and confusion in the organization. And that seems to me, I have to say, pretty weird. Like, if you're not going to go to war and you're wasting this card, you're showing your hand like this, it seems kind of strange. But again, I don't know anything about explosives or about batteries or about, well, I do know something about war, but that's how it is. Now, it is worth saying that in the last couple of days or weeks or maybe even months, it does look like a war between Hezbollah and Israel is kind of inevitable. Israel kind of woke up to the sensation that it's being surrounded by hostile Islamic organizations who are intent on destroying it. And October 7th kind of showed the Israelis that these people mean business. They really do intend on destroying it, exactly, well, what fate awaits the civilians of Israel if it does not get rid of these organizations. That's basically the Israeli perspective on things. On the other hand, people are well aware that war with Hezbollah is quite different to war with Hamas, but, war has always been the domain of the uncertain. People can't know for certain how hard a war with Hezbollah could be, and they can't know for certain what the consequences of devastating Lebanon by Israel would be. I remind you that Israel hopes to normalize its relationships with countries like Saudi Arabia, and bombing Lebanon into oblivion is not going to make the Saudis very happy. Well, maybe the government wouldn't care, but the Saudi public will definitely care. And they actually also care about what's happening in Gaza right now. So I assume it's more complicated than it looks. If normalization wasn't on the table, probably Israel would have already invaded Lebanon. But I guess we will see, and maybe even in the coming days. So this is my quick synopsis of what happened. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you again in the future.